Hi, my name is Lindsay, and I have been a parent at Hudson Way for 10 years. I have three children. My oldest is now in sixth grade. She transferred out in third or fourth grade from Hudson Way to an all-girls school. And I currently have a first grader and a son in the threes program. Um, we've been super happy with the school. We think it's the best thing that we've ever done for our children, the best decision that we made, and which is reassuring because I know all of you probably have a lot of anxiety about making the right choice. So anyway, you're at the right place and welcome. So neither myself nor my husband actually speak Mandarin. However, my husband does speak 7 or 8 languages. And as an American, I've always felt very deficient in my language capability. So I definitely wanted a language. And as I researched the preschools in Manhattan, I was sort of underwhelmed with their curriculum. A lot of it was raise hands, tie shoe, put on coat, numbers to 10. I mean, those are things that we do at home. So I wanted something a little more. And I stumbled upon Hudson Way when you were on the Upper West Side, Riverside. And I called and I went in and I met Sharon and I started crying. And I don't know if you remember, I was like literally crying. It was so embarrassing. Like,
I
anyway.
remember exactly where
I
we
went,
were and
this is
every moment about that.
But what I mean, really, for us, we wanted a foreign language, but Mandarin is so different from an Indo-Aryan perspective, and it uses both sides of the brain. And I mean, there's just all of these new connections. And what we've discovered is that our children are actually, I mean, they're so much smarter than they would have been, and smarter in math. Um, and that's very important to us. And as John said earlier, it is so easy for them to pick up other languages. I mean, now at my daughter's girls' school, she had to take Spanish and French and Latin, and she's proficient in all of them. And she's 12, and she could read Harry Potter and Mandarin on top of everything else. And she transferred, was it in second or third grade? I don't even remember. But yeah, I mean, she was reading Harry Potter when she left, and she's been able to maintain it, which was one of my concerns. I mean, we do outside stuff as well. She does have tutors, but I mean, we've been so pleased. And when she transferred, she was 2 years ahead of math and she was a year ahead in English, which was completely shocking because she wouldn't read English for me. She only liked to read in Mandarin. I mean, all of these are wonderful problems to have. But I mean, initially it was a big jump for our family. I think just choosing a non-traditional preschool, but as I stated, it really has been the best decision. Everything has been easy for my kids because they've become fast learners. They have this confidence. They've had to stand in front of their peers and search for a word so that they could only speak in Mandarin in the classroom. I mean, you remember when you were young and you took a foreign language and you had to do, speak in front of the class and do group work. And it's building that confidence in memorizing. I mean, it's been so helpful for my children. The community is second to none. And my best friends, my best mom and dad friends are definitely the part of the Hudson Way community. And I will say, as far as the education, it is the best school in New York City. I ended up transferring my oldest to one of the best all girls schools in the city. I didn't even apply. I just wrote an email, not during the application period, and they wanted to see her. So that is sort of how we ended up transferring at the time once they made the offer. But I'll tell you that the school doesn't meet her needs necessarily. At Hudson Way, she was really great at several subjects, and the school would always challenge her. I have to supplement at her current school, and she is doing so well, but she's not necessarily being challenged. The math teacher has to give her extra work. She's in the Russian School of Math. We have a tutor from Colombia. I mean, it's all of this extra stuff outside of school, and it's fine. She's very happy, but it would be nice if the school would just meet her needs instead of just sort of, she's in this grade and this is the best she can do, and she's with her class. When we started at Hudson Way, I think there were 6 kids in the first class with 3 teachers. It was wild. And all of the kids, they had this, it was like having a private tutor. And these children they received so much like fantastic personalized education that I don't think any school could ever replicate it. But that's why my younger 2 children are definitely in the school, and they're thriving. My 3-year-old speaks Mandarin. It's wild. He's only 3, and we don't speak it at the home, so he's only getting it from school. Anyway. But it's a fantastic place. The education is wonderful, and lifelong friends.
So I think I'll just
spoke about real world application. Sharon, we went to China when Alia was 5, and now she's 12. And I don't speak Mandarin. And Alia had to speak to the taxi drivers, the hotel. She asked questions about the map. And she was shy, but she knew I sort of held it over her, like, you have to, or like, we're lost in China. Anyway, but I've since Sharon first took me to China, I've taken my kids there almost every summer, and we'll spend 6 to 8 weeks there. My kids know Shanghai like they know New York City. Really. And they always navigate the entire city for me because I don't speak Mandarin. And now I have 3. So I'm dragging around my 3 kids, and they're, speaking to the taxi driver, speaking to the hotel, at the grocery store, all of these little things. And it feels so special, and people are so impressed. Anyway, it's really fantastic. And Alia even competed at the university in Hangzhou a couple of years ago, right before the pandemic. She took a coding camp with a bunch of, she was the only non-native speaker, and she was able to compete at that camp. And it's fantastic. Anyway, we're super proud, and we're super pleased with what they've been able to accomplish, and especially that they've actually been able to go out into the world and to use this skill. I just want to add something on a different note, because it was something I was initially concerned with. I was worried about English. Like, would my daughter, would she be competitive with children that went to proper school, normal schools? And I think a bunch of us in our class, we had all of our kids do the gifted and talented. You took the Hunter test. I don't think you're the only one, John. Anyway, our kids were always above 97% on the gifted and talented tests. That includes English. And when she did end up moving, she was a grade above in English, even though I didn't see it. I only saw the Mandarin. So, that's not something that you have to worry about. Even during the pandemic, my son was in pre-K. I didn't even know he knew how to read English. In that little time, Miss Patty had taught him to read. And he's 4. Anyway, he was I felt like he was young, but so they are learning English. And you can read at home just like you're supposed to do anyway, but you don't have to worry about it.
From a recent perspective of coming in during COVID last year, where there were no extracurriculars after school, and my husband and I weren't new to New York. We'd lived here before San Francisco, but the kids were new to it, and we'd not been here with children, I should say. So it was definitely a new age for us. And I think they both the other 2 panelists did touch on community, and I would say it was easy to form relationships with parents. I think one of the things, if I can speak candidly, is that we're all in this place where if you're looking at private schools, you're kind of like, do I really want to play the game? I don't really want to play this game of like rubbing elbows, etc. And I found that you can sort of stay true to yourself a little bit at Hudson Way. It doesn't feel over the top and that you have to be this like New Yorker, you know, like the typical stereotype that you might get with a New York private school that just doesn't seem to ring true at Hudson Way. I feel very grounded. I feel like my kids are grounded just by growing up in the city. And I mean, I'm happy to speak more about that in particular, but I know that if you're wondering about that with the admissions process, like it does feel like a family. One of the things that we had been told was to trust the process, right? So Lindsay comes from a decade of experience gained with her daughter. And I guess I'm sort of here to tell you that you can see the change happen within months and even within a year. I've seen it in both my kids. And so my son started in the pre-K 2s last year, and he's in the pre-K 3 this year. My daughter was in pre-K 4 last year and is in kindergarten now. And there's been a tremendous amount of absorption. They are talking to each other in Mandarin, you know, some of its colors and shapes and things like that. So even though this is a long-term process, you will see development in the short term. I have a video actually just last night of my kindergartner trying to read. They're into reading Mandarin books now. So she was trying to teach the little guy. And, you know, they were just talking back and forth about colors. And, you know, at some point she's like, I'm telling you the answer and you're still not getting it. But, you know, silly things like that. But I just wanted to give the more recent perspective of, you know, there is no Mandarin at home. And it's not like we have outside or supplemental help. And we're still seeing the absorption happen, grasping the language. You know, my 3-year-old will look up and he'll see like a caterpillar and he'll know how to say caterpillar, like the hungry caterpillar. Like he'll recognize that and he'll say it in Mandarin. And so there are words and things around them that they are picking up. They'll sing. They've been singing within 2 months of starting last year. And we had the recent, just one little anecdote there. We did have the recent experience of my daughter on her scooter, which is common, I know, for New York kids. And she's sort of belting it out on the middle of 9th Avenue. And there was a native speaker in front of us who like turned around and sort of did a double take when she saw my daughter, because we don't look Chinese. And she said, you know, she sings very well and she could pick up. And so that was also just, you know, on the streets of New York within 1 year, what they're accomplishing.